Want a website with unmatched power, speed, and control? Try Bluehost Cloud, the new web hosting plan from Bluehost, built for WordPress creators by WordPress experts. With 100% uptime, incredible load times, and 24/7 WordPress priority support, your sites will be lightning fast with global reach. And with Bluehost Cloud, your sites can handle surges in traffic no matter how big. Plus, you automatically get daily backups and world-class security. Get started now at Bluehost.com.
The following podcast may contain discussions supported by science that may be considered dangerous to some listeners and conspiracy theorists. Discretion is advised.
The 3 Down Greencast is brought to you by the Pile of Bones Brewing Company. Home delivery available in Regina at sassbeerdelivery.ca. Welcome to the 3 Down Greencast. You are listening to the internet's only Mayo Dog podcast. I'm Joel Gasson with John Fraser, as usual. Some things to get to in this episode.
Just a couple.
We had originally planned to record perhaps earlier in the week, but I thought, surely by now, as we record on Wednesday, December 7th, I thought surely by now we would at least finally get the inevitable, and the Riders would announce who their offensive coordinator is, and we all are fairly certain who it's going to be. But as of this point, they have not. It may come by the time you listen to this podcast. It may or may not. But
with our recent luck, it won't happen. But with our historical luck, it'll be announced at 7 a.m. tomorrow morning.
Yes, because I will admit, this morning at work, because I knew we were recording this evening, I saw in my email box and in an email from Ariel Zero, I'm like, oh, is our timing going to be perfect again? No, it was the Riders re-signed Jamal Morrow, which is a good signing. He was their best offensive player, and easily a no-brainer to bring back next year. But we will talk about the ongoing coordinator search, a little bit on a team that has their ducks in a row and is making all the seemingly right moves in Ottawa, and spin off a little bit of a conversation that Cody Fajardo had with one Rod Peterson the other day.
Yes.
But first, the other day, I was scouring the internet.
As one does.
Generally speaking these days, that just means I had Twitter open. And I can't remember how it ended up in my feed, but there was a feed for a recipe for something called mayo nog. And so, of course, I sent it to John as a joke.
Yep.
And then John immediately said, we have our open for this week's show.
Yes.
So if you're unaware of what this is, and I don't blame you, there was an article written in a publication for a recipe that was developed, I guess, by the Hellmann's Mayonnaise Company, or brand, or whatever they are called these days. And basically what it does is you're making a homemade eggnog, but instead of using eggs, you're using mayonnaise. Because mayonnaise is essentially half eggs anyway, you're just adding now some oil and some other seasonings to the equation, along with all your other traditional, your creams, your brandies, and whatever else you want to add into your eggnog, but you're using mayonnaise.
Yes, which sounds a little out there, right? You don't think mayonnaise and festive holiday drink. I mean, the science behind it, now that you break it down, the science makes sense. But just thinking of putting mayonnaise in an alcoholic drink is enough to make me wince. So what did I do, Joel Gasson? Surprise! I made the mayo nog. Full disclosure, I'm going to be putting up a video of this later, and then putting up a video of me sampling it here right away. In the mayo nog is mayo, milk, cream, syrup, nutmeg, vanilla, cinnamon, and 4.5 ounces of different booze. So I'm optimistic for that. So no, I have taken a video, got Max to help me shoot it. We are going to do a live tasting of the mayo nog. Let me just get my video going here. Because again, sometimes when you podcast, these good ideas come up. All right.
And there's nothing quite like building and trying a recipe over, a visual medium like podcasting is.
Right,
so,
exactly. Which is why I've actually, it's funny, I've taken my old honors TV broadcasting diploma skills out, and I'm editing up a video. I've got cross dissolves. There's no star wipes though. Okay. So I have the first glass. It made 2 cups of mayo nog. It smells actually a lot like eggnog and booze. So
there's not a ton of mayo when it's not really offering up much of a smell. Mayonnaise does, so.
That's really good. I'm shocked how good that is.
I will say,
Like, I'm floored. I'm Gasson. I'm floored. Like that like. I don't know if it's the mayo that takes the edge off the booze, but like, there's not an insignificant amount of booze in there.
no, but I will say I have previewed the video of you, mixing everything but the booze in to the drink,
Right.
and I did comment that we're a little light on the mayo, I think.
Oh no, it was quarter cup. It called for a quarter cup, but yeah, I can actually say, I thought this would be way funnier. I thought that was going to be disgusting, but it's actually really good. Like, it's better than store-bought mayo. So, mayo nog, 2 thumbs up.
Store-bought nog, you mean? Because it was
Yes.
obviously store-bought mayo. I mean, if you made homemade mayo to make this, that would maybe be a little extreme.
Yeah, that'd be a little. I mean, I was off today. I did have time to do that. No, that actually is better than normal nog, and I think I'm gonna start making that for my for everybody that comes to the house, and not tell them there's mayo in it, because that's sneaky good. Like, I did not expect that to be. I thought this
Could it
was
be one of those situations where the floor was so low that it was an easy bar to clear because you had this, like, oh my god, this is going to taste like mayonnaise and rum?
Well, and the problem was too, I got a little worried because before we were recording, I was waiting, I was doing prep, getting ready for you for about 10 minutes, and I took an ice cube out of the golf ball,
Yep.
and put it in, and it like didn't sink, and I'm like, oh, this is textured like mayo, and it's gonna be good, but no, it's. I'm pleasantly surprised. Mayo nog, 2 thumbs up. Now, the only dangerous part is I'm a little lactose intolerant, so...
yes, there is not an insignificant amount of milk and cream in that.
No, there is not. So, if I have to run suddenly, it is actually not because of lettuce for once. It's because of the mayo nog that I'm already halfway done the first of 2 cups because it's really good. Like, it would have been funnier if it was disgusting, but...
Yeah, it would have been.
I can't even pretend. It's really good. It's like creamy and frothy and better than store-bought nog. Mayo nog. They were onto something. The scientists at Hellman's Mayonnaise Company. Yeah, that'll be our next sponsor.
Maybe. And to be fair, yes, they did not sponsor any of this. I believe the mayonnaise you used in that video was not even the sponsored mayonnaise for the post, so...
No, it was 100% Kirkland. I mean,
Yeah.
come on. Like,
Which may, in fact, be Hellman's. I mean, who knows? All the Kirkland is off-brand of something.
It's true. And so we could even say we're using low-quality mayo. And my biggest concern is it was not the mayo, but, like, it called for apple brandy, and I didn't have apple brandy. I have just, like, the cheapest brandy you could get to use for cooking.
Yep.
And I'm like, okay, that'll be it. But it somehow blends together really nice, and it's not too sweet. And it's I might actually make it again.
Oh.
I might. Christmas Eve, mayo nogs at Fraser's house. This sounds terrible. This reminds me of the my kids love Captain Underpants.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the characters there every Christmas has ham nog. And it's just a silly concoction, and I feel like this is my ham nog. I'm going to tell people, hey, you want a heaping cup of mayo nog? And they're going to say, absolutely not, you're disgusting. I'm just going to sit there consuming my sweet, sweet mayo nog.
More for you, I guess, yeah.
Yeah, oh yeah, it's really good.
It's funny that you did mention lettuce earlier, though.
Oh, of course, because that's naturally whenever I have to take an emergency poop, it's 90% of the time caused by Subway lettuce or, poisoned lettuce or old lettuce or, lettuce in general.
On that note, we do have a Subway up. Subway. See, I screwed it up. Haven't done enough of these. I screwed it up. We do have a lettuce update.
Da-da-da, da-da-da. Lettuce update.
So, if some of you may have noticed, if you are members of the Hit the Sco group, which is a fairly large Facebook community, based mostly in Regina, but kind of growing, because it originally was like a Regina Costco group.
Mm-hmm. That's kind of evolved into
they've
memes and humor and...
Yeah, and they've kind of tried to branch it out to beyond just Regina to basically allow anyone to join. So they took the Regina part out of it, but it's still mostly a Regina-based Costco group for people who shop at Costco.
Right.
And The interesting thing, and it made me laugh the other day that came up, was someone was asking if the lettuce from Costco had give them gastronomical problems. And they actually used that word. That's not a word that I'm using to cover up other words. That was the word that was used.
It's a real word. And it's funny. So, other night, kind of a lazy man supper, air frying some Costco chicken strips. And Lacey's like, hey, do you want a lettuce bun? Like, who do you think you're talking to? Of
Part
course
of me
I
hopes
don't
she asked you just to, like, troll you.
I think it was. There was a smirk on her face. And I'm like, no, I'm going to use a nice carby bun, and I will throw a little bit of lettuce on my chicken strip sandwich.
Mm-hmm.
But I can tell you, now that I think of it, and normally when I drink vodka soon enough afterwards, it kind of kills everything, but I can tell you, there were some upset tummies in the Fraser house that night, so I'm thinking it was that Costco lettuce. So avoid Subway lettuce. Homegrown lettuce, the iceberg grown in your fridge is okay still, but we have another lettuce warning for Costco lettuce, and it's so damn expensive now. Just give it up.
No, yeah, potentially. I mean, the question that I had and I'm wondering is, because lettuce has become so sparse and expensive, is like Subway's supplier like cornering the market right now? Because I haven't been to a Subway in a while, but I assume they have not run out of lettuce.
No. Which just means they're using even browner, more ill-gotten lettuce from whatever hell they find it. But I can tell you, the switch to spinach, there's a big old thing of spinach in the fridge. Always recommend it. You can feel like Popeye. Your arms get all do-do-do-do. You got a little corncob pipe. Switch to the spinach and save your insides.
And a few bucks along the way.
That's true. It's not as scarce these days, and it's better for you, and doesn't cause gastronomical problems.
Some Rider fans may be feeling gastronomical problems these days as they continue to wait to see what this team exactly is doing. So we're going to get into all that and a little bit more. But as usual, before we get into all that this week, I guess because we already know what's in John's glass.
Oh, I just got a mayo-y chunk. There's a lot of mayo in that one.
So perhaps I guess you didn't quite blend it well enough with, I believe, you had the magic bullet out.
I used the Nutra blender, but I took a sip, and there must have just been like one rogue piece of mayo. It was a little off. Thankfully, the next sip I think was all the booze, so I'm good. Still chugging along here with the mayo nog, but we've gone from a 8 out of 10 to a it feels like Russian roulette now with your drink. Every once in a while,
is it going to be delicious or mayonnaise?
Oh, the first 4 sips were so good, and then I got the mayo.
So the question is the rest of it good and you just didn't get the mayo emulsified with it? So did you just drink rum, various booze, and various spices with milk and cream?
Oh, I don't know, but there was an orb of mayo.
That worked out even better than it just being gross.
Just a globby chunk of mayo that hit me. It just hit me right in the mouth.
Good thing we're not at work right now. There's a lot of HR complaints.
I gotta try again now, Joel. I got. Yep, more mayo. More mayo. Oh, there's the cheap brandy too. What happened to you, Mayo Nog? You used to be so good. Why are you betraying me? Okay, I have changed my stance with the Mayo Nog. Was good, now terrible. Maybe I'll try stirring it. Maybe that'll make it better. But please, what is in your glass?
Maybe with an actual whisk or something, yeah.
Yeah, I need to go vicariously through you, because this has gone from good to horrible.
Since you were way out on the extreme, I sometimes, even in the depths of winter or winter-like weather, even though technically it's still not winter, for me, I have the Pile of Bones Prairie Pills, because sometimes, even despite all the terrific beer styles that exist these days, you just really want a dry as hell Pilsner. And,
that's fair.
That's where I stand on that. And a real Pilsner, not some mass-produced garbage pretending to be Pilsner.
Yeah, not the Labatt Blue crap that I'm glad that tradition died with the Grey Cup loss this year, so I never have to do that again.
No, that's done. That's over with.
Well, no, it probably isn't, because the guy that started the tradition was in Australia at the time and not watching the game with me, so I know next year, when he's not in Australia, he's going to want to do it. So that speaking of terrible things on my insides.
At least there's no chunks.
Oh, there's no mayo chunks.
I don't know. Maybe mayo chunks would help.
Oh, something. I don't know why the second glass has just turned into evil. Like, did the mayo like while I was waiting for you, did the mayo like drip? I'm just trying. Like, I'm
maybe
now I'm trying to.
Maybe should have kept it. Thrown it back in the blender for a quick whiz and then keep it in the fridge or something. I don't know.
Oh no, I am now loading it up with ice out of the Gulf asbestos ball to try to water this down. And
nothing like some asbestos to make this better.
Oh, that's right. Oh, I can actually see a chunk of mayo in it now. Taking a photo. Oh no, that's eventually going to be in my tummy. All right, so mayo nog, terrible now.
Yeah. I got nothing. The Riders still have not hired their offensive coordinator,
which is also terrible.
Yeah.
There you go. There's your. I know you're too concerned for my well-being to pick up on that transition, but and I'm still gonna finish this. I'm not gonna waste good booze.
No, I mean not. I mean, you already admitted there's cheap cooking brandy in there, so I mean, I don't know what rum you bought, but I don't know if I'd say there's good booze in there.
Grand Marnier is in there,
okay,
and Bacardi spiced, which is probably my favorite spiced rum. It's really good.
Fair enough.
But yeah, the rest of it. See if some ice cubes out of asbestos ball can redeem it, because that escalated quickly. Yes.
Unlike the Riders' offensive coordinator search, which has not escalated quickly.
There you go.
Boom! We just had to get there.
Had to go out and redeem yourself, Gasson. Had to be.
Yeah, I really thought after we recorded our last episode a couple weeks ago that whoever the Riders' offensive coordinator was going to be would be named by now.
Right.
But here we are.
I would think.
Yeah, here we are on Wednesday, December 7th at 7:50 p.m. Saskatchewan time. And technically, we still don't know. I think there's probably, based on this, not any sort of inside information. I don't know anything more than anyone else does that's out there other than the insiders. From what we've seen from various people talking around the league, like 95, 98% chance this job should be going to Kelly Jeffrey, last year's running backs coach. And here we are, for some reason, despite the fact that seems like a foregone conclusion. We're still waiting on it, and we're still talking about where they're going. And for some reason, there's still all the talk of who has rejected this role.
Yes.
From Mark Mueller to Jarius Jackson to, various names across the league have all either declined to interview or declined their interest in the position, which for all the reasons we've explained previous episodes, as to why, lame duck situation where you cannot blame anyone for that. I'm just kind of confused as to why this isn't done yet.
It's reeks of desperation is what it does. Like, we all know it's going to be Kelly Jeffrey, as you said. We all expect it to be Kelly Jeffrey, and from all reviews, Kelly Jeffrey sounds like a decent candidate. I know the optics of it aren't going to look good going in-house on an offense that, quite frankly, was dog shit last year. But he seems to know what he's doing. Obviously, the team's high on him. They kept him around while getting rid of literally everybody else. But by not naming it, at some point, if you're Kelly Jeffrey, do you go, like, do I even want this? Like, they're literally reaching out to just about everybody else. I remember a couple years ago when the Riders brought on Jason Moss. Like, you had, they were talking, they're going to bring in Jason Moss. They had previously talked about bringing Kahari Jones, Paul LaPolice. This was a destination for coaches. And now they can't even get guys to interview. Like, that, how sad is that? Like, this is all reeking of desperation that, and we're not talking, I get it. Kahari's probably going to make more because they're probably paying Bob Dice less in Ottawa. So
the thought I initially had was, maybe they can draw a Kahari Jones because maybe he's a coach in waiting. But even then, he's still rolling a dice on whoever ends up making the decision as to who the next interim head coach may be, should that be required, being a Kahari guy.
Right.
And so maybe...
But he just went through that. He literally just went through that.
No, I know. And so it's like, okay... So I do not blame him for saying, okay, maybe I'll just go be the offensive coordinator in Ottawa for a year or two, and then basically then, if things go according to his plan, and I have the utmost respect for Kahari Jones' ability as an offensive coordinator and frankly as a head coach, at that point he can come out and say, okay, now I can probably take a pick of, jobs A, B, and C that are available, instead of saying, okay, I'm going to come here, I'll be the offensive coordinator. If everything goes great, I'm still the offensive coordinator of a good team. Or if things go sideways, maybe I'm the head coach. But on the other side of that coin is things don't go well. Maybe I'm not the head coach and I'm back out on my ass again. So even for Kahari Jones, I do not blame him for taking the job in Ottawa, especially with the connections he has with Bob Dice and now defensive coordinator Baron Miles, who were all on that 2012 and 13 staff here in Saskatchewan.
Yeah, and I love what Ottawa's put together. I mean, you just look at Ottawa being able to get the big names like Baron Miles, keeping Bob Dice, a guy that we both like, getting in Kahari Jones. Meanwhile, we're looking at seems like the Riders, even if they went out to interview the assistant receivers coach someplace, would still get told no. Just, this is a disaster. And I know I've said it before that you had to bring in a guy that could probably be your coach in waiting, because from all signs, it doesn't look like Dickinson is going to make the year. Now, do we get another full year of Craig Dickinson no matter what? Because you're not hiring somebody off the street. You're not bringing somebody in with the coaching cap and as you mentioned, the short-termness of Jeremy O'Day's contract as well. It's just this just seems... Everybody knows it's a lame duck situation, players, coaches alike, and it doesn't have the allure that it once did. That, oh yeah, you can, Saskatchewan's in on the biggest free agents, they're in on the biggest coaches, they're in on everything. It seems like the reputation of the franchise has done a complete 180 in terms of...
Have you seen Chuck Norris lately? He's still kicking butt and staying active well into his 80s. What's even more shocking is he looks more jacked than ever and seems to have more energy than guys half his age. And it's all thanks to Morning Kick, a revolutionary new daily drink from Roundhouse Provisions that combines ultra-potent greens like spirulina and kale with probiotics, prebiotics, collagen, and even ashwagandha. Just mix with water, stir, and enjoy. Unlike other green drinks out there, this one tastes exactly like strawberry lemonade and has hundreds of 5-star reviews. Go to roundhouseprovisions.com/save44 for up to 44% off your regular priced order. Plus, every purchase is backed by a 90-day money-back guarantee. So if you want to experience smoother digestion, a boost of energy, and just an overall healthier body, then go to roundhouseprovisions.com/save44 today. These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. Results can vary.
Why are so many dogs suffering from health issues? Actress Katherine Heigl, who's helped save over 16,000 dogs through her foundation, says she's seeing more issues with dogs' joints, odors, and health than ever before. And after doing a ton of research, she feels there's one place we can look to support any dog's health: their food. So she decided to create something she could actually feel good about feeding her dogs. It's called Superfood Complete. Superfood Complete is made with over 30 of the healthiest ingredients on the planet, including several superfoods vital to your dog's health. Badlands Ranch also sponsors the Jason Debus Heigl Foundation, which has helped rescue thousands of dogs and place them in loving homes. Dogs across America are trying this food and experiencing amazing health benefits. Go to badlandsranch.com/save50 and order right now to get up to 50% off your regular price order with a 90-day money-back guarantee. If you want your dog to experience all these incredible things, go to badlandsranch.com/save50 today.
At your job, do you ever have to deal with a nose roller? How about a snub pulley? Well, if you're installing a new conveyor belt system, Dealing with the different components can sound like you're speaking a foreign language. Luckily, you've got a team ready to help. Grainger's technical product specialists are fluent in maintenance, repair, and operations. So whenever you want to talk shop, just reach out. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Hiring people and getting players.
Yeah, and I think this sort of unnecessarily long extended search isn't helping that.
No.
Because if you're Kelly Jeffrey right now, and you kind of hinted at it, it's like, okay. Like, I think the team would have just been better off if they came out and just confidently said, this is our guy. Like,
right.
we basically, since before the Grey Cup game was played, everyone was, like, there was other names on the table that thought maybe, okay, there's a shot here, but even then, when, like, the names of Kahari Jones and Mark Mueller were still kind of being floated around a little bit, you know, the likes of Justin Dunk and those guys, they were fairly confident that Kelly Jeffrey was going to be the guy.
Right.
So if we're all kind of saying this 3, 4, 5 weeks ago, and since then you still have not announced him, and there's still all these, you know, sort of leakings from various spots and reports of guys who have turned down the job for various, not maybe necessarily the job, but the opportunity at the job for various reasons, it just makes the whole situation look unnecessarily worse. Because you can, the optics are going to be the optics of both this hire no matter what. So you might as well go into it on the strongest foot you can. So they should have just frankly announced it weeks ago, gotten on with it. People would have probably forgotten by now, and they maybe would have given the guy a fair chance. Instead, now they're starting to look like this guy's like plan Q or something.
Right. You're absolutely right. I think I was still a fan of the team, at least waiting until they knew what Kahari Jones and Mark Mueller were going to do. Like, it, to me, those were the two big name guys that if you say, you know what, we missed out on those two guys, we're going with our guy, we believe in him 110%, I don't think there would have been harm there.
Yeah.
But now it's just, like all jokes aside, you know, Marcus Howell is a receivers coach, a run game coordinator. He's not a big flashy OC. You know, you're getting Pete Costanza, another receivers coach that, I'm sorry, I can't take anyone with the last name Costanza seriously. Like, he's a great coach. I'm not slagging on Pete Costanza, but you're
basically looking at 4 fish in the same barrel at this point.
Right. And why not stand behind your guy? And like I said, how good do you feel if you're Kelly Jeffrey?
Yeah.
Yeah, our search literally involved everybody else that's on a CFL staff that's in any kind of offensive position. And yeah, I guess you're okay. Like, I don't know. Maybe they think that he can't.
I mean, he may already have signed the papers a while ago, and maybe this is done. But I'm just not sure why we're sitting on this if they have.
But even Haji had that. Costanza and Jeffrey both had a second interview today.
Yeah.
Like what? He's been on your team for a year. What do you need the second interview for? Like everybody else is saying no. Pete Costanza's, again, sure, great coach, but I can't not think of George Costanza whenever I hear that name. So it's a bad look for a team that has just had so many bad looks this season and this offseason.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
They really had a Mayo Nog season. It started off promising, and this turned into this disgusting thing that I can barely bring myself to finish, and now it's making my tummy sore.
Yeah, so I mean, just confidently make the decision, go out there, get in front of it, and live by it. And then, again, as we said before, this is no disrespect meant towards Kelly Jeffrey at all, who may turn out to be a great offensive coordinator.
Absolutely.
It's just the process to get here has been fumbled, and it has not been pretty. And what it does at the same time is even though, okay, internally they may actually know who their offensive coordinator is going to be, but until that's sort of done in public, you know, you really can't move forward with a quarterback until really you know who your offensive coordinator is, because as much as teams talk, and, you know, we talk in the world of football, it's like, oh, it's important to have a really good high-end quarterback. And it is. Yes. But it's also important to have a really high-end quarterback that can fit the system you plan on running. Because, and we've seen a lot of this in the NFL the last few years. There's been a lot of great kids come out of college who I still believe are very good quarterbacks, but just got put into spots that just do not work. It is a sport of fit amongst anything else, and unless you are the Baltimore Ravens, who are literally willing to completely upend your entire offense for a quarterback, which more teams probably should do, But
Yes.
and most of them aren't. But if you're willing to do that, then yes, you can draft any quarterback you want. Otherwise, you need to find the guy with the right fit. I think the best example of that right now is Zach Wilson with the New York Jets, who I will still die on that hill that I believe he's a good quarterback. He just got jetsed. Or he was not a fit for whatever they're doing for whatever reason, c'est la vie. So, in order to know what the fit is, unless you have an offensive coordinator as a head coach or with an offensive background, you know exactly what you're going to run. And maybe Craig Dickinson has an idea of the offense he wants to run. I don't know. But without the offensive coordinator, without sort of knowing what your big overall offensive picture is, you should not be picking a quarterback either. And that's just delaying that process even further too. And that brings us to the guy who was their quarterback the last few years, who we thought was going to be sort of the answer and turned out, at least in the short term, not to be. That's, of course, Cody Fajardo.
Yes.
And he appeared on the Rod Peterson show early this week. Had a conversation. Nothing too egregious, nothing too out there. Pretty straightforward sort of thing that I would have kind of expected. Not that I don't think Cody's being honest. Lots of stuff about, he's disappointed, upset. The locker room sounded like a complete mess, which isn't a surprise given sort of what happened.
Absolutely. You read between the lines on Cody's interview, and he says specifically like the locker room was going through some stuff. Mm-hmm. It's amazing. We came out and could play together. Like it sounds like Cody just verified everything we kind of heard rumbling about this team. And credit to Cody. He was very diplomatic in the way that he said things with Rod. Mm-hmm. And credit to Rod.
I mean, when you're looking for a new contract, throwing your teammates under the bus postseason probably isn't a good look going into a new locker room.
No. That's also, especially when you already have the reputation of not being a thick-skinned kind of quarterback. So, but you and I were talking. You're right. You are absolutely right. It wasn't a complete nothing burger. No. If you kind of sit and go, okay, yeah, the locker room did sound toxic. And the number one thing that I think garnered all the headlines, which were properly attributed as always,
and not fake news,
was that Cody said that he hasn't heard from the Riders at all.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the Riders don't want Cody back, and I don't think Cody wants to be back.
Mm-hmm.
That's not a surprise to anybody the way that this season ended.
Yeah.
But I still think we all know that McLeod Bethel Thompson is basically gone.
Yeah, I mean, as we said, the guy didn't show up to his own championship rally.
Exactly.
So.
Nathan Rourke, from all accounts, has not only has been offered workouts by every NFL team and is now hitting the point where, kind of like Bo Levi Mitchell did a few years ago, where he's picking his spot a little bit. I'm not going to work out for 32 teams. I'm going to work out for these 5 teams and sign with one of them. So he's as good as gone. So you'd think that if you were the Riders, you would at least reach out to Cody and say, listen, that didn't go as planned. That was a disaster. Holy crap. But keep in touch because we might need each other. If Cody wants to be a starter in this league, it might only be in Saskatchewan just purely out of desperation. So it's kind of a bad look that the team hasn't reached out to at least touch base and see where the guy's head is at. Yes, we know he was benched for Mason Fine. Yes, we know he didn't play well last year. Yes, he was injured for the entire year, and he even admitted maybe should have taken the time to get healthy. But when the musical chairs stop, unless you find a way to sign Vernon Adams, maybe, who I imagine would re-up with BC when Nathan Rourke leaves.
Yeah.
What else are you going to do? Nick Arbuckle? Like, that's kind of where they're at coming into next year. If we play quarterback roulette, it's probably Nick Arbuckle or Cody Fajardo. And I think I'm taking a healed up Cody Fajardo over Nick Arbuckle any day of the week. So for them to not reach out, that's a bad look, and I think could really bite them in the rear end, because I think Cody is done enough that he'd be willing to go and be a primary backup, a 1B kind of guy with one of these teams that, have a meh quarterback situation, like maybe back to Toronto because, to mentor Chad Kelly a little bit, maybe to BC. So I think Cody's spurned enough. He'd go be a backup someplace, but the Riders need a starting quarterback because they're going to get their lunch eaten every single day. Like, you might as well just make Craig the coach next year because nothing's going to matter if they don't have a quarterback.
Yeah, and I mean, the only thing I would say counter to that is a thought brought up often by Three Down Nation's J.C. Abbott. And he makes it quite eloquently, and I think he's actually quite right. And that's if you do not have an elite quarterback, which by his definition of Sanders is a guy capable of being a top 3 QB in the league, you might as well roll the dice on someone else. And basically, his thought is, compared to the NFL, CFL teams have become scared to roll that dice.
Yes.
And so they play it safe, which we've seen a lot of teams do a lot of times. And Cody might kind of be that move. Now, I don't necessarily disagree that maybe he ends up being the break glass in case of emergency because there's nothing else. But at the same time, it doesn't mean that I don't think there's something out there that we're missing somewhere. I doubt it, but you might as well roll the dice on something else because when you've seen what you got out of Cody. So I can understand that to a degree, and he always makes that point really well. That's kind of been the conversation around Chad Kelly recently in Toronto. Nathan Work was the same thing kind of in BC last year, not to say that they're going to have comparable, sort of trajectories over the next couple of years, but that's sort of the thought is, okay, McLeod Bethel Thompson, you know what he is, in all likelihood retiring. Rather than saying, let's go get Dane Evans or something, roll the dice on Chad Kelly and see what you got. If it doesn't work, oh well, grab another guy, roll it again. That's it. Yeah. That's kind of the theory, and I mean, right now, I don't think the Riders have that guy in-house to do that.
No.
Now, they didn't give Levi Lewis a snap in that final regular season game for some reason. I don't know why.
Which is strange.
So maybe there's something on one of these roster guys we don't know. I don't really see it in Mason Fine, but who knows? Crazier things have happened, right?
Or maybe they literally, after all this turmoil and stuff, I know Bo Levi Mitchell's out there saying, I don't care. I want to go someplace that they care about football and I want to get another ring and stuff like that. But maybe at the end of the day, out of pure desperation, you back up Zach Caleris money to Bo Levi Mitchell and he's coming to Regina. Which is a possibility.
Yeah, it's certainly not out of the realm of possibility either. It sounds like the Riders still have a shot at him, is where we'll leave that at this point. But to me, the interesting part that stood out of Cody's comments about that is not necessarily that they haven't talked, because, okay, as a one-off in a nutshell, okay, maybe that happens because there's sort of a mutual understanding between the two sides that they're, for now, kind of done with each other.
Right.
But this is the start of a trend. Not even the start of a trend. This is a clear sign of a trend for the way this team has operated over the last few years, since Jeremy O'Day became the man in charge as the Vice President of Football Operations and General Manager. And that's when there is a veteran on this team, and I assume the non-veterans too, but we don't really hear from them because no one really cares.
Right.
That is set to become a free agent and is someone that is kind of on the block for potentially leaving, as people we've talked about. We've heard this. We've heard this from Charleston Hughes. We've heard this from Ed Gainey. We've heard this from Micah Johnson. We've heard this from various other players who, are veterans of this league and have said, I didn't hear anything from the team. And at first you're like, okay, that's kind of weird, but okay.
Right.
But it just keeps happening. So clearly this is intentional. This is intentional style. This is not something that it's just being done for whatever reason. And I just think it's the wrong way to go about business.
No, I agree with you. You look at what, and you and I don't like the fabric that Chris Jones is made out of.
No.
Neither of us think he's a good human.
No.
He's proven to be a good football coach and general manager because when he's done with a guy, he tells you, right? In our conversation with Sergio,
he's often cut guys before their contracts are up to be clear that, hey, you're done, go sign somewhere else now.
Right.
And I'm not saying you have to do that with every player, but at least when you're clear with them, and yeah, if you do occasionally cut a guy early to give him a head start, they appreciate that kind of stuff. And in a small league, that sort of thing gets around.
Well, I remember when we talked to Sergio last year after the Grey Cup win by the Bombers, and he had kind of said he had kind of said this, or indicated it to us that he had spoken to Kyle Walters and they said, this is our number. And he said, and Kyle Walters was like, this is our number because of our cap situation. We think you're worth more than that. We get it if you sign someplace else for more money. Which is, a pretty clear indication to a guy that we like you, we can't afford you, so here's what we can give you, and if not, no hard feelings, right? At least say something like that. Like, what's the harm in going to Cody and saying, okay, it was a rough season. We need a veteran on this roster. We're looking $150,000 plus incentives, which is kind of going rate for backup quarterback. If you can get better, get better. If you can't, we'll be here. Let's be in touch, right? And with all those veteran guys, and like you said, Joel, it's a small league and a changing player. And what I mean by a changing player is guys want to be treated with respect. This isn't even as early as the 2000s or 2010s where you just, you treated these guys like pieces of meat. They want to be treated with respect. And you see so many pro sports teams, football teams, when they get a guy in there that treats them with respect, that brings positivity instead of that old school, take it or leave it mentality, or we're going to play games with your head mentality. I mean, look at the Miami Dolphins. Yeah. They bring in a head coach that's positive, that wears it for him, that goes to his starting quarterback and says, here's a bunch of clips of you being good. I know you can be that guy. I even look, me working with the Saskatchewan Rush, they went from Jeff McComb, who was, a bit of a negative dude, to Jimmy Quinlan as their head coach. Well, they won 4 straight games to end the season. Jimmy's an excellent positive guy, and then just beat the defending champions at home 18-6.
Surprised it took you this long to bring up the fact that you're working for the Saskatchewan Rush and that they won over the weekend.
If it wasn't for that glob of mayo, I probably would have brought it up way earlier. But no, you look at the changing mentality of a player, and not talking to these guys, they're not looking at it as a, guys don't look at it like, oh, they must want me. That's it. This is my only option. I need this. I need this. Guys go, fuck you. You don't talk to me. I'm leaving. Like, guys want to be treated with respect, and now there's not only are there 8 other CFL clubs where, from a football ops standpoint, we know at least 3 of them are doing things the correct way. We've heard that either through the grapevine or verbatim. But the XFL is coming soon. And I think if you're going to continue to play the mind games and give players that may or may not be back the silent treatment, they're just going to leave. And it might be time for a change in negotiation tactic to the more modern way of doing things. Hey, this is what we can pay you. Hey, you're not really in the picture right now. We'll release you right now so you can find something different. So hopefully this offseason proves me wrong, but and again, I'm not a fan, but
no,
I don't think I felt, God, like even some of the bad seasons they had after 2013, we knew they were going to have because they essentially extended all their draft capital and young players to bring in a super team.
Yep.
But I don't know if I've ever felt this bad about the team heading into an offseason as I have for this Ryder club. And I say all that even with Jamal Morrow resigning today.
Yeah, and I mean, maybe it explains some things of why, the free agent period under Jeremy O'Day, maybe part philosophically this way, but in general hasn't been as splashy as his predecessors.
Right.
Because as much as you want to build through the draft and you want to build the right way and everything, it is still fine to, especially in the CFL, plug a few holes with some big free agent names.
Which is funny because they have done a good job of building through the draft and building Canadians. Like this team is so bizarro to me that you could take almost all of their Canadian starters and they'd have a role on any other team in the CFL. Like almost all of them. But it's the seemingly easy to replace free agent Americans around them that always seem to drop the proverbial ball and not bring it, and they can't find the talent. They're not finding, again, and we've said it to death, Dalton Schoen, right? You're not finding that guy. So I hope that maybe with the fact that there weren't a lot of bums in seats, and I think the OC hiring is going to get out the pitchforks and torches, and people are going to be upset that maybe there is pressure from the top to, okay, change your ways. We need some names. We need some bums and seats.
Yeah, and I mean, ultimately, this is more and more every day starting to rest at the very top. You know, I think last year during the season, you know, it was mostly kind of directed at Craig Dickinson. As the things kind of started to slowly spiral with the Garrett Marino stuff, and then as sort of in the eyes of some, lack of changes to the offensive line during the season, which I will argue is pretty much impossible. You know, off season's a different question, but you know, then it slowly started to build up towards Jeremy O'Day. And then I think it's kind of stayed there when they decided to keep Craig Dickinson. Well, someone eventually okayed all of that, and the buck stops at the very top. And now I think that pressure has to be reaching Craig Reynolds. There's no question about it.
No, I wouldn't disagree, because I think things like reputation do fall on Craig. Mm-hmm. And again, I'm a fan of Craig for reasons we've discussed here. Things like not being able to go, you know, getting spurned by guys that aren't huge names for the offensive coordinator job, that goes all the way to the top. Like that isn't like that shows to me that guys are talking about the way that this organization does business, and it's not good. And that's again why I have, like, I know it's early, but this is why I have such, you know, doom and gloom feelings about this club at this point right now. They could have a huge offseason. Mm-hmm. They could get Bo Levi Mitchell. They could get Derek Dennis. They could get a couple more pieces on that offensive line, and maybe Jeffrey ends up being an offensive guru, an offensive genius, and they start 5-0, and we're all laughing about this. But at this moment right now, in early December, a couple weeks after the season ended, like, this doesn't feel good. Like, this feels like another telethon is coming in 3 or 4 years.
Right now, it definitely feels like the mayonnaise has not been blended in.
Oh.
That's the sound of your current hype level at the gas pump. But brace yourself for something fuel nominal, because Unleaded 88 is about to take the hype to a whole new level. Unleaded 88 is cheaper, cleaner, and greener than regular unleaded. Plus, it's homegrown, making Unleaded 88 the clear choice at the pump and totally worth the hype. So pump it up with Unleaded 88, brought to you by Iowa Corn.
Save on O'Reilly Brake Parts Cleaner. Get 2 cans of O'Reilly Brake Parts Cleaner for just $8. Valid in-store only at O'Reilly Auto Parts.